let's see. Let's talk about some terms, some more terms. All right. So I want you to get these down, and these terms are text. We're going to talk about what makes a text. All right. So writing. When we talk about writing, we say you're producing text, you're producing paper, themes, that sort of thing. What exactly is a text? And the purpose of this, in one sense, is to expand your definition of writing so that you can see it happens across disciplines. Okay? Now, you may just end up turning in traditional paper, hand-in paper for people. At times, it may be electronic submission. But, you know, what if it's a PowerPoint? What if it's a Prezi presentation? What if it's a video log that you eventually have to produce? This is not far-fetched. I know it depends on what institution you go to, but things can get pretty complicated, and they might want a YouTube video that has multiple scenes in it and all that, and they'll give you a semester to do it, I hope. But you see, we're assuming you have a lot of desktop publishing tools, and you know. So what in the world is a text, and what is writing? Okay, so let's go ahead and say a text is symbols that convey meaning. Now, let's go collected. On a tangible collected symbols that convey meaning on a tangible, accessible space. So think about this piece of paper right here. All right. Is it a tangible space? Can you touch it? Can you hold it? Now, by tangible, maybe I should say material. Yeah, and are they symbols here that I've collected, and to me they have meaning? But let's look at this sheet of paper. Material space, in other words, it exists outside of one's imagination. I mean, it actually exists in the physical world. Symbols on it. Is it accessible? Can you see it? Okay, all right. Then it's a text. This is a text. Okay, but what about this? Is this a text? Well, wait a minute. Is it existing in a material space? Can you access it? In other words, I'm going to think about something right now, okay? Okay, I got it. It's a sentence. Subject, verb, direct object. Can anyone tell me what the subject of the sentence is? Because this is a black box, right? I mean, you can't access this. I can keep a lot of things hidden in this. It was elephants eating peanut butter, and I was hoping no one would ever guess it. You would just make me drop on the floor if you said elephants for that one, right? Because I was, you have no idea what I'm thinking about up here. This is inaccessible. But as soon as I start doing this stuff, it becomes accessible. In other words, it becomes public, right? And this is the root of the word publish. Because public, you all can see it. Now, what about an airplane going through the sky and squirting out, some hose in the back? Eat at Joe's or whatever. Is that a text? Well, does it exist in a physical space? Can it be accessed by people? Can other people see it and read it and understand? Is it collection? First of all, is it a collection of symbols? Yes, absolutely. It's got letters, right? E-A-T, all that sort of thing, in a certain order. And then, is it in a physical space? Yes. As much as you might think this is not truly something you can hold and all that, you have to admit they're physical atoms in that little smoke or whatever, and in the sky. So can it be accessed? Yes, absolutely. So I see some of that is a text, by the way. I see some of you have your laptops here or phones or whatnot, and you're looking at something on the screen. Is that a text? Well, is it a collection of symbols in a physical space? Are you dealing with electronic pulses, which at the end game of the theory is photons and electrons? You're dealing with that. Is that physical? Yes, absolutely. Can it be accessed by many people, by other people? Can you imagine someone else looking over your shoulder and seeing exactly what you see and making the meaning of? Yeah, it's a text. Okay, so now we got to kind of parse out two things. First of all, there are ephemeral texts and there are permanent texts. Ephemeral means they exist just like that. Okay. And they disappear very quickly. So the smoke in the sky that says "Eat at Joe's," that is a text. It is. But it's going to be gone in 5 minutes, so it's ephemeral. It just disappears. A permanent text is more of, you know, this thing right here. If you leave it under your desk, or hide it somewhere in the room, like put it in that little box over there or something, and then, you know, a month later go check it. It's probably still going to be there, okay? It's not going to disintegrate that fast. But so this is more of a permanency. Right? But what if this room caught fire and these were the only copies? Well, then it goes. So you can have levels of permanency. Now, the whole process of archiving is to make something almost indestructible. There are techniques for that. But this is much more permanent than the cloud in the sky, right? Then you have stuff that's kind of like in the middle, like this right here. Is this a text? Well, we already said yes. What kind of text is it? Ephemeral or permanent? And then you realize this is more like a spectrum, okay? With ephemeral being right here, and then permanent being over here, and you have levels on it, right? Because this is going to be, it's going to be, excuse me, it's going to be permanent until I do, then it goes, right? So what might you do to increase its permanency? You might take out your cell phone and take a picture of it. And then I erase it here, you've got it on your cell phone. It's a little more permanent, isn't it? So let me ask you this. What you're hearing right now, verbally, orally, is that a text? Well, first, is it a collection of symbols that has meaning to some group? Yes. Is it being used to, well, no, let me skip that. So it's a collection of symbols. Is it in a physical space? Yeah, sound waves with atoms of the air, according to our sound theory of sound, you know, it's the wave hitting the atoms and all that. So, okay. Is it accessible to other people? In other words, is a public assessing it other than the guy making it, the author? Because, you know, in theory, you can imagine that I'm just imagining myself saying it right now. Okay, you got all that? So, you know, that's not accessible. But as soon as I start putting it in the symbols in the physical space that's public, a public physical space, that's another way to put it, it becomes a text. The trouble is, it's gone, right? Did anybody record this? You got a phone recording it or whatnot? Okay, so this is truly ephemeral, and no one owns it, it's gone. Well, guess what? I am kind of recording it because I'm using this material for another class. So I've got the text. And if I deposit 2 copies of these in the Library of Congress, you can't use it for anything, as far as anything that's going to defame me or make money. All right, I can sue you for both because I've got the text. And I haven't deposited it in the Library of Congress yet, but that only facilitates the process. It just makes it easier to take it to court. If I can just keep it on my computer and I can still start the process because I have it as mine. So this is a reason, okay, have you ever wondered why a politician just doesn't like get the paper and just go, wah, and just talks to the crowd, you know? Or even if they do pretend to talk to the crowd, they've got someone in front with the cards or something, or a teleprompter, whatnot. Why not? Why? Well, maybe they have trouble memorizing, sure. The other thing is they want to own the text. It's their text. They've got it. They've got it in a material form first. So this is one reason why some people are very hesitant to give comments. Because, I mean, the reporters are sticking the recorder in your face, and you know as soon as they get that recording, it's their text. They can make money off it. They can mess around with it. They can put it wherever they want to put it. They can sell it to The Onion. They can sell it to, you know, all sorts of stuff that might make you not look so good. So this might be one reason that people you think are standoffish are actually copyright savvy, and they don't want to sell their text that way, give away their text that way. So texts get pretty, it gets more complicated. Right now I'm going to erase this. There it goes. Say goodbye to this baby. All right. We need to unpack symbols, because we have a tendency to think that symbols are words like this, the S and the Y. But you see, that is a symbol. I wouldn't call it a letter. I mean, yeah, it is, but in a larger sense, it's a symbol with a half circle connected to a half circle. And we've sort of learned how to Think of this as I guarantee you, before this, if I had just done this, you wouldn't know if that's the letter 1 or or just a line, or like, what is that, right? But if I do this, and I put it right here, you know automatically it's an L. So, you know, these, that's how signs work. Now, symbol is a type of sign. Signs are above it. And we have letters. We also have stuff like, and now that I'm trying to think of it, oh yeah, here we go. Plus, we know what that means, like plus and minus, and we know what this means. So why in the world does it like a V with a line like that mean divide? Or square root, why? And if we take that away, all of a sudden we're thinking division. Well, it's just something that we learn, right, by convention. So symbols are convention, and we just agree upon it. You know, we can imagine somewhere someone saying, look, you know, for what we're doing right now, let's just let, you know, this mean you divide it. And then pretty soon it catches on, and people use that text and learn it and just keep the symbol, right? So, but we also have this sort of thing, like what if I were to do this? Like the University of Akron loves to have this up on their 3rd floor. You go up to the 3rd floor and look at all the signs they have, and they're like, you're in the library. Well, so that's a sign. We've learned how to interpret it. It's a symbol. Because there was nothing like inherent in it that says this means quiet. Or like this. We think this means stop, right? We just kind of learned it. Although if you go to a certain South American country, you know, you do that to someone, and you know, you might get punched in the face or something. So that's not the whole symbol, but that's close enough. That's a very dirty and ugly symbol. And then we have icons. Okay, an icon. So a symbol is just something like letters or something like this that it doesn't kind of resemble anything. We just kind of have learned to interpret that as meaning something. Like this means divide. This means plus. But an icon is you know, this is important. An icon is anything that is not the thing itself, but is representing the thing, but looks just like it. So now I wish I had. Oh, here we go. Okay, you see this? You see this picture? Can you see that right there? Can you tell what it is? Well, there's a stone, yes. And what's this? A leaf. I know it's hard to see back there. A starfish? one poor mutilated starfish. But it did have 3 arms, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's a leaf. It's a leaf. But this it looked like it. I mean, it's a picture of it, right? But is this the leaf? I mean, seriously, is this the leaf? Is this the stone? Let me throw it at you. I guarantee you'd rather be hit with this than the stone. So this is not the stone, but it's a picture of it. It looks very much like it. So we don't have to like learn this. Like we don't have to sit around and say, okay, this symbol equals stone. Just because it physically resembles the thing itself so much, we understand it as a sign. Okay, so this depends on physical resemblance. Close physical resemblance, okay? So I'm going to draw something here. Now why do I get into these things? But here we go. Car. Yes, thank you. Now I can quit this torture, but a car. You know, if I actually saw something that looked exactly like this on the road, I would laugh. And I would just kind of look at it as like, man, that's just weird, you know? Because the door doesn't even open, doesn't even finish, and you got this weird kind of floppy looking tire. And so we understand that this is not like a picture, right? In the sense of a photo, which has like a very, very strong one-to-one correlation to the thing itself. But we understand, you knew what I was doing because it looks close enough. It's beginning to get the blurry lines of a symbol, but it still is an icon because I didn't have to say to you, class, from now on, this equals car. You just knew it. So icons are anything like pictures and graphics and videos, okay? So videos. So you go and you watch a movie. I mean, pick one for me. Let's it's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. We're on it, right? And he's coming out of that we saw that trailer. He's coming out of the mountain. Did we all like start getting cold? Oh, you know, or no, because we just understood. It's a 2D. It's on the screen, okay? It's not the real thing. It's not the real thing. So let's just say that Walter Mitty died in the trailer. Would we walk around outside going, man, I can't believe Ben Stiller died. Ben Stiller is dead. Let's go check it out on the news. Because we just know this is a whole collection of icons, of signs that's meant to convey a message that's publicly accessible. So let me ask you, is the movie a text? It is. Absolutely it is. Is a song a text? Is your Facebook page a text? Yes. Okay, so now they're different, like different permanency levels and ephemeral levels, and different, maybe they're using different type of signs. There's another type of sign called an index. If you're interested in this, these are the three major signs developed by a thinker called C.S. Peirce, pronounced Peirce, an early 20th century philosopher. And you can get renditions of this, and you can go a little deeper into this if you want to on your own. I want to hold you responsible. The symbols and icons. Give me just a minute here, and we may as well cover this up. Let's say you're walking along, okay? So here's your smile and your arms, and you see trees over here. Nice trees. By the way, so what is this? A symbol or an icon? This right here. It's a very bad icon, right? But I mean, you got a head, you got some arms, you kind of like, this is a human. You got this sort of thing. Maybe I should have done this. You know, so trees, okay. Then you don't see anything else, but you do see this. Oh, yeah. Smoke, right, all right. That's another icon, and you recognize it. I'm getting better at this. Smoke. What are you thinking then? What do you think? And then you see like animals running out, which is a sign too, because do animals usually run out at you, like bears and mice and badgers and whatever else? So, but you don't see what you want, but you see this, and you start thinking, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And then sure enough, later comes out the, the fire. Okay, an index is a sign that is almost always the effect of a previous cause, of a cause. And it's situated in nature. And the cause and effect relationship happens so often that although you know there are exceptions, right? Because couldn't there be like a group of guys in there just with a campfire making a lot of horrible dog whistle noises and driving the animals out? Or maybe not even a campfire. Maybe they just like to play around with dry ice or something and they're just making this smoke or whatever. You know, it's getting kind of crazy, but that is a possibility. So you always know there could be another way this is happening, but usually like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, when you see that stuff and you hear the, it's fire, right? So you associate this with the effect. This is effect. And it just so often comes along caused by one thing, you're looking for the cause. Okay, so Robinson Crusoe, how many of you have read Robinson Crusoe? Oh, it's a fantastic book. It's one of my top books. All right, and I'll try to read or reread or listen to this thing over and over again, maybe. And well, at the rate I'm going, it's going to be once every 5 years. But Crusoe, I would recommend the audiobooks. Crusoe, he comes along, right? And he's walking along the beach one day, and guess what he sees on the beach? You know this, right? What does he see?
A whale.
Not a whale. Are you just guessing? What does he see? I thought I saw him right there. He sees this in the beach. He gets them all spooked. He sees a footprint. The footprint. One footprint. Now, that's the effect, right? He's looking at that in terms of an effect. For what? Of what? Someone else. Because he knows he was never there at the beach. So he thinks it's someone else, right? And he is utterly convinced then that someone else had been there on that beach because of the footprint. Well, what other ways could that footprint have come about? Do you think the sand could have just, like on its own through some magnetism or whatever? What was that? Not in the shape of a foot. That's a long, long, long shot, okay? But if you do believe in miracles, and if you have probed the depths of science far enough to be convinced that it's all magic, you might actually think, well, yeah, that is possible because it's not a logical contradiction. But I don't know if that's likely. If that's likely. So who else may have caused it? Well, he himself, right? On a previous trip. And maybe he just forgot he was there. But guess what? There are no other footprints around. The beach is empty. The sand had cleaned off the beach, which should leave you the question of, well, how in the world did that footstep get there? Because it's only one, and it's a perfectly formed footstep when there are no other footsteps around or any other disturbances of the sand. So how do you think that happened? Which is one reason that Crusoe eventually becomes convinced it's Satan, the devil, trying to trick him. And so he becomes very, very scared and like runs into his hut and shuts all the doors. I don't know. I forget exactly what happens. But eventually, it's his man Friday. He finds someone. But the troubling thing about Robinson Crusoe is the author, Defoe, never explains how it's just one footprint on that pristine beach. But that would be an index, because Crusoe is thinking there's only one way this effect could have been caused. There's only one cause for this. Well, at first there's a couple. It's the devil, and then it's a human being. I guess, and the human being is not me, so it's got to be someone else, and he goes looking for someone else. So that would be an index, okay? Now, I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to try to do something quickly here. I might take an extra minute. Just hang on. I am watching the clock. But we sometimes equate texts with documents, and then we talk about documentation. Okay? We have text with documents, and then we talk about documentation. And when it comes to writing, like a research paper or an informative paper or something like that, we'll say, well, can you provide documentation for this? And you might be thinking, well, I've got to cite my books and my magazines. But we might, it might be a movie, it might be an interview. Is an interview a text? Well, it is, but if it's only verbal and you don't record it, it disappears once it's said, right? So we might even question whether it is a text or not, because it just disappears so quickly. But if you are actually doing the interview through email, and the actual person is on the other end supplying you the answers, yeah, that's a text. All right, so when we talk about documentation, we are talking about going to the text, right? So I want you to think about something then. That there are, in fact, two places for you to go to get information, right? One is the world of texts. Okay? But since it's linked so closely to documents, so now you realize that a movie can be a document. Now you got to be careful how we use these terms, because if you go around saying, oh, I just watched a document the other day, people are going to be like, no, because I'm thinking a document as an 8.5 by 11 white piece of paper. And so there's a common perception. This is like the rich definition that I think we can work with, but if you're going to go talk about this in the hall, you may as well. Don't forget, people are probably just on the common level definition of the term, okay? So anyway, what I want to use this for is to say, look, there are really two types, right? There is the world of documented info, and then there's undocumented info. And one mistake I find writers to make in the college level is to think that they need to go only into this level. Well, what in the world is the undocumented area or info? Well, let me tell you this. In about 3 minutes, there are going to be a lot of people in that hallway right now, right? You can find out information about them in terms of their social habits and all that. What if we took some of these chairs and place them in front of one of these? There's a double door right here, right? There are two double doors. Let's put one chair in front of one of the two double doors, one of the two panels that open, and another chair in the other one. And let's watch what happens. I bet there'll be a bottleneck. I bet it'll be a long time before one student just goes over and grabs a chair and moves it, and then opens both doors up for use. That's my prediction. But let's say we actually do it, and we watch what happens. are we actually getting like numbers and statistics and info that we can use to make a point about social habits? But what would we have to do next in order to really make it useful? We would have to turn this info into a text. So we would have to like write up the experiment, right? Or capture it and come up with the statistics and all that. But this is called, I'm going to put it nice and bold right here, field. This is called the field. So I want to show of hands if how many of you have heard of field research? Can I see your hand? Field research, that's what they're talking about. They're saying don't go to the books. You go out there and you make the data. Now you make it carefully with an experiment or a carefully designed survey or poll. But you are the one that is actually uncovering the information. All right? So what I'm going to say is really all of these we can call sources, right? There's a whole load of sources right in this area that you need to access. But they're not really going to be accepted as such until you are able to collate them and turn them into text by writing it up, okay? But for those of you that are eventually going to be writing research papers in college writing too, or for us now with our project on this breakfast thing, we're going to come up with some polls to ask, because we're going to make your own data. I can't find certain information I want to find on the net or on the databases, so I'm going to see if we can make it. So I'm going to make a poll for you to take and to give to others. And then we'll write up the data, and then we'll use it in our writing. See, then we take the field work and turn it into documented work, and it becomes a better established and accepted source. Okay, well anyway, I've given you more terms, and I hope that you were able to capture it, to get them down. They'll serve you well, not only for the test, but in the way you think about these things.